This is Justin Pulitzer. This is my midweek video for Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. A lot of news after hours with NVDA and their $5 billion write-down for chips going to China. Apparently they need a special license. I actually think, unfortunately, a lot of these chips are going to find their way to China, but through other countries. But that's another story. As far as the sentiment goes, we had a pretty big pop into this week. I think that's a lot had to do with the tech exemptions from the Trump administration, although that got stepped on with some mixed messaging by the open, so it wasn't as big of a move as maybe traders expected. CNN gauge, this was at 3. It's now at 18. That's still pretty extreme fear. The things that have been working against the market also have been seasonality, tax day in particular, which we just got through, so that's no longer an issue. If anything, you'll start seeing allocation money now, so at least we're through that. The other one is the buyback blackout going into earnings, so as we get into earnings season and get past them, you'll start seeing buybacks come back online. We're starting to get the big boys reporting as soon as this Thursday with Netflix, but the bad news for Netflix is the market's closed on Friday for Good Friday. And of course, we have Easter Sunday. So we won't be able to trade in the immediate aftermath on Friday. It'll have to wait till Monday. So factor that in if you're trading NVIDIA. I'm noticing a few things. One is that the 20 MA is becoming some resistance, and we're going to have to see if the 10 MA is support. Calendar-wise, we have Powell speaking tomorrow, or today, technically, since it's after midnight when I'm recording this, and it is a Wednesday video, so he'll be at 1:30 p.m. What I'm expecting out of Powell is just that they're expecting a little bit of inflationary action, but they might be a one-time thing, or they're going to probably play a little wait and see, but the Fed, of course, stands ready if action needs to be taken. I don't really think the market's going to get out of Powell what they're hoping, though. So that's something to be considered. The probability of the Fed cutting in May is very low. It's basically 80-20 that they won't. Okay, so just something to pay attention to. The 10-year yield, which everyone said was going immediately to 5%, is pulling back. This area was some initial resistance, is 4.3, 4.25 area. Bulls, stock bulls, that is, will need that to get below there. Moving into our charts. So the VIX got the pullback we were looking for. The prior resistance had been 28.32 to 29.57, and look where we, lo and behold, touched down to the 20 MA as well. I think if we get over the high of day at 31.45, we could bump up to the 10 MA pretty easily at 36.91. And I haven't ruled out another test into the 45s. That is still on the table here. For that to be off the table, the bulls will need to keep VIX back and get it back below this 28.32. If they can, I think they test back to the 24.80 to 23.76 level, and then we'd see. That would be mid-channel. But I think volatility was at the prior resistance, which now may be at least short-term support. TNX. This is, I of course forgot to put in the CGI, because why wouldn't we want to have the ticker as complicated as possible? So this is the 10-year yield, of course. Pretty big move up off the low and pulling in. So what now? There could be some support around the 200 MA, maybe at 42.22. I'd get careful as far as 10-year yield goes if we got back up over the 10 MA. I'm sorry, the 100 MA at 44.05. And if we were to get back up over 44.56, I think the market's probably going to see that 45 VIX again. So keep those levels on your radar. TLT is coming into some potential resistance if it does keep on bouncing. That would be up closer to 90-ish, 89.55. This had been prior support, now might be resistance. Also the 50% fib of the most recent range. We had a look above and fail. We came down to range low. We're bouncing. It just seems to me as business as usual. I know the media wanted to make a lot of it because, of course, it fit their narrative. XLF. We had this head and shoulders and seemingly a check back to the neckline. We're after hours. Obviously, everything's a little bit softer because of the NVIDIA situation. We'll see how long that holds. Bulls will, at least the XLF bulls here, will need to hold 46.65 to 47.04. If not, maybe a little fungibility to 46.43, which is the 10MA. But below there, I think it's dump time again, and this would just be a failed check back. I was thinking maybe we would see a little bit more of a bump up to the 20MA and underside of the old uptrend in the 48.14 to 48.38 area, but it may not meant to be, and we may just go lower here. JP Morgan, so they had a good quarter. Everyone was excited, right? But alas, we stalled at the 20MA and just under the downtrend line. I'll keep it simple. Bulls will need to get over and stay over the downtrend line, and I would say even the 50% fib, because I do think that there is resistance between 241.21 all the way up to the full 4.2 gap fill at 245.82. So if there is further strength, that's probably where you want to be selling into. Back below the 200 MA, you could try short, 232.06. So that is the must hold or lower. The dollar. Now, this just keeps going lower, which is interesting, I think, for a few reasons. One is obviously tourism. You'll probably see more people coming to the United States, and companies who do business overseas will see that as a benefit. Think about Meta. Usually they complain about the dollar being too strong, and that hurts their earnings, so weaker could help. The only caveat here is I think that there might have been a little bit of a freeze up around the tariffs. I don't know if that's going to impact the quarter in any meaningful way, but there's, of course, the guidance with them, and then we'll get to it. We'll get to Meta when we get to it, but the potential for a breakup. But as far as dollar goes, I do think we're going to see something like this where it consolidates here, down here for a while, and then maybe gets a little bit of a rally. We've seen this before. It might go incrementally lower, but I don't think it's going to go that much lower here. I think these 99s are probably going to hold for a little bit. The Bitcoin. Now, this is a bit interesting to me. We had a trend break. We did stall kind of where we might think we could. It's interesting it didn't get the full articulation to the 50MA, which shows a little bit of weakness. But I think as long as this 10MA-ish area holds at 82,357, it's kind of all right. I feel better over the 20MA, which is currently 84,046. The 200MA has been support the last couple of times, but the more times you bang on it, it gets a little bit more iffy. We do technically still have a look below and fail situation going, so there should, quote unquote, be a little bit more upside, particularly with dollar weakness. Robinhood, which is often used as a proxy for this stuff, Bitcoin and I guess meme stocks and things like that, is into some potential resistance here with the 50MA being the must clear at 46.43. It is down in the after hours to the 42-ish level, the 20MA. I would say that that needs to hold. If not, we'll likely see the 10MA at 39.96. I do like generally buying dips in Robinhood, but we are technically in a downtrend. I guess we're kind of caught now between the uptrend and the downtrend in the pennant, but it got into the sell zone. All right, so I would play a little wait and see. I'd feel better over the 50MA on some Momo. Okay, if you want to sell some OTM footage, if we get the 45 VIX, that makes some sense to me. Maybe somewhere down with a high 25 to 30 handle, I would think. If you can get those off for any decent premium, I'm okay with that. Gold, we've been bullish on gold. It is still going higher. Keep raising stops now. I think you could use 296.09 as a stop. We're up in the 302s. So, you know what? Let's have a little bit of an audible there. I think we could use some slippage, maybe 300 to 299 is the must hold as a raised type of stop. Anything above there, I mean, the 4.236 is 327. I don't know that we're going there, but I do think that the 300 plus area is a decent level to sell a little bit into. The GDX is obviously catching a bid. We have a couple of things going on here, though. One is we're into the channel high. It'll be higher with gold, of course. Let's see, in the after hours, it's in the 52s, and that's just above our progression line. So probably a good zone to trim into. I would say trim 52s and 55s, because that's the 78.6 of the range. I do think we could get there. So yeah, trim a little 52s, trim a little 55s, and you could use the opening 5 or 15-minute low as a stop, considering, gap rules. Could do that for anything pretty much that gaps up, by the way. Use the opening 5 or 15-minute low as a stop. Oil came down for a few things. One is obviously people are afraid of using it as a global growth proxy again, but also the Saudis increased production. So it was sort of a 1-2 double whammy at the same time. I think that we may have seen an interim low at the 55s, but I wonder if this will heat up if war with Iran kind of takes shape, that there's no deal for the nuclear situation. I can't imagine strikes on Iran not impacting oil. 64.92 to 65.27 is the upside resistance in the short term. Okay. Above there, then it could run, but until it can clear there, it's really just reference range. And I would say that that's sort of like the maximum allowable rally before oil could really take off. XLE, I've said this before, it is very volatile, and you really do need trending oil for this to be strong. I mean, at some point, it gets interesting, right? Maybe with a higher VIX, could sell high 60s, low 70s puts. I'm good with that. I think that kind of works for me if you want to start initiating a position. But until oil really bottoms, it's a little on the iffy side, right? I'm going to pull up SPY, but of course we're going to talk about the ES and the NQ first. There's a lot to discuss, by the way. As far as the ES and the NQ go, we had resistance. I had just said 5,500 to 5,600, but it's really 5,481, 5,559, and then, of course, up to 5,600. We are below the interim trend line here, and we are below the 200 MA 30-minute. So that is problematic. Remember, the 100 MA 30-minute had been support, and that failed. So a few things to note. One, Friday's repair of the rich close is just to 53.35.75. That could offer up some support. We did have a little bit of a underwater close today, but I mean, nothing really to write home at 54.47. The Qs, the apples to apples on that, the rich close there, we're almost at here at 18,584.75. On the upside, I've told you I saw resistance all the way from 18,976.75 to 19,386.75. So we got up into that many times, and now we're pulling back. The next big support zone is possibly at that repair of the rich close at 18,584.75. And then we're talking about 18,268.75 and maybe even a retest of 17,919. That would be a pennant fill from the most recent low before this pop. The apples to apples on that for the ES could be, I guess, down here at 52,062. So maybe I could see us getting down to 52.50, maybe, if we keep dumping. I would feel better back up over the 200 MA 30-minute and better still over the 100 MA 30-minute. What was support may become resistance now, though, so keep that in mind. And also keep in mind we have the shortened week because of Friday being Good Friday. Expected move in SPY is $10.28. Max pain pin is $5.49. So we'll see if that changes, but they are thinking a little higher. Now, tariff day suspension pop got us up to the 549.68 area, which is where I said it was a good area to book profits into. We did pull back. This was a pretty deep pullback, and now kind of rallied to a bit of a lower high. So what now, right? In the after hours, we're trading about 531.74. The 10 MA is 529.12. And then tariff day VWAP is 524.28. So I think between 529.12 and 524.28 is the kind of must-hold support for things to stay healthy-ish. Below there starts getting a little more dicey. And I'd feel better over the 20 MA. And we didn't even touch it here. So it's a little bit of a weak bounce, right, in SPY. The DIA, this got the channel low. We got just shy of the 2 times range here, and we checked back to the neckline. So resistance was expected here between the 407.25 and 408.34ish area. In the after hours, we're trading 401s, and look where the 10MA is. 397.93, and the 38.2 is 398.42. So basically, we got the 50% fib. We're down to 38.2. Tariff suspension day, or negotiation day. The VWAP was 392.58. So I could see a move potentially down there. I think things might accelerate if we lose that 400-ish area. So let's keep an eye on that. Basically, fib to fib, MA to MA. Also didn't quite tag the 20 MA, so a little bit of a weakish bounce there. Expected move, $6.77. Max pain pin is 410. Nike seems to be bear flagging down here. I thought that this could rally because there was a lot of reference support down here around $49, but it's a little iffy, I have to tell you. It would not surprise me to see another little bit of a leg lower, maybe into the 45s, but down here, if it's going to rally, I'm going to put an alert here over 59.55. That to me would interest me if we were able to clear that. I would say that this is a long. If it can clear, and then I'd also say below 52.28, that this could be short. Always on guard for look below and fails and look above and fails, because then we'd rotate to the opposite ends of those ranges, which is also a very viable trade. Boeing, so the Chinese apparently are going to not take delivery of Boeing planes. I guess they'll just be rerouted elsewhere. They have a pretty decent sized backlog, so that won't impact them immediately. I mean, I'm not really that big of a Boeing fan. I know they got the F-47 contract, but I do think on earnings, there could be a pop to the anchor VWAP at 187.45, but that to me is a sale. Probably a good spot to be booking gains into. So you might want to have orders out and ready for that potential pop. Caterpillar, big move down, basically a retest of the breakout. Not quite the 61.8, which is what I was kind of hoping to see. We still might see it. Very kind of weakish bounce in Caterpillar. We didn't even get to the 20 MA. We didn't even get to the 38.2 at 321s. We'll see what the earnings have to say. I think if this does rally on earnings, it probably would be to like 332, which is the back underside of the old up channel. So that to me would be 321s, and then 332 is probably a good area to sell into. Moving right along, IWM, the expected move there is $4.32. Max pain pin is 199. Now, IWM really took the brunt of it, almost a 30% decline. I'm not really a big IWM bull, but if it does pull back here, 182.40, which was tariff, negotiation day, VWAP is key. It's interesting to me that this didn't even get to the anchor VWAP or the 20 MA, and it's in the after hours here trading already basically at the 10 MA. So IWM to me is just sort of junk. I've never been a big fan of it. I've traded it and mixed degrees of success. It's always sort of like the hard way. The Qs, a few things. One is it missed the check back to the breakdown, which was 466.43 to really 471.60, but it did get the 20 MA, so that is, I guess, good. It's not good that it's down in the after hours, and if it does keep pulling back, I think it could tag out the negotiation day VWAP at 443.70 and maybe the 10 MA at 447.13. And then that to me is kind of the must hold. If not, we could be retesting lows. I'd feel better that the decline in the NASDAQ is back up over the 20 MA. So if we can clear 463.65, then I would feel better about things. But it seems like the Qs are in a little bit of a pullback mode thanks to the SMH. Now, SMH also didn't quite get the 20 MA. The 10 MA is 196.82, and we're already below it, and potentially I didn't do an anchor day VWAP for that, but it would probably be somewhere around just below the 10 MA. So a little iffy there. Let me go into the 2-day 5-minute. I'm just curious to see. Yeah, really getting trashed in the after hours. I bet this could bounce off the open. You're going to get downgrades, by the way, of NVIDIA and all these things, but it seems to me like wherever this opens in the RTH session, probably a good opportunity to maybe use the opening 5 or 15-minute range, as if it clears that, there could be like some type of a bounce. So don't just assume it goes immediately lower. One of the things I meant to mention before we got started on this, by the way, I'm short NVIDIA at the moment, which happens to be working out. I told you I did the 90, 80, 75 put ratio. I filled this a couple of sessions ago, so that will likely, the overwrite will probably come under a little bit of, pressure, but generally, if we were to get down to 75, I'm not such a hater down there. And I did that in June, so it has some time to work. I mean, if, the lower strikes get into trouble, we could always adjust. We'll discuss that. One of the things I meant to mention earlier was if you go back and you look at our lows that we made, these were made in an overnight, a bit of an overnight session. So I don't know. And even the higher lows, these were in overnight sessions. So I'm not so sure that these lows don't get challenged and maybe taken out. Could happen. Usually you don't make lows in overnight sessions. That's one of the reasons I've been cautious on the bounce. With regard to NVIDIA, it's good that we did get to the 38.2 in the 20 MA. The bad news is we're below the 10 MA. And if we were to come down to the channel low, that would take you down closer to those 94s. Now, I don't necessarily know what their impact on earning. I think they said this is going to be like $5 billion. And this is more than, I believe, a $5 billion decline. But the problem you're going to have is analysts downgrading, and yeah, that becomes a whole thing, a vicious cycle. And that's what you're seeing with a lot of these stocks. You've seen, I guess, analysts playing stock market. They are thinking that price came down, so of course they're lowering their numbers. And then there's always the recession fear. So a few things. This $86 number might get retested. We'll see. We're currently at the 103s. This 90 zone, though, has been some key support, hence why I did the 90, 80, 75. 75 is just what I could get it on for free, and this is also the reference low here from 419. Could we overshoot to 67s and maybe 65s? Yeah, I mean, that is possible, but do I hate owning NVIDIA down there? No, actually, that's right where I'd be looking to buy. So within $10 of the low. Less the premium. And I'd add to the position there, because that's the plan from the beginning. Avago, Broadcom, however you want to pronounce this. I've heard it so many different ways. The 10 MA is 67.93, so that's the must hold. We ran into 200 MA resistance, so no, I mean, that had been the support, it became the resistance. I was going to say maybe we would get up to the 195s if there was no new, bad news, but that's the underside of the old up channel, but seems like we're pulling back. A lot of these bounces really didn't go where they should have, which should tell you something. Apple, so couple of things. Below 199.62 is iffy. 10 MA is 196.14. That better hold. If not, we're probably coming back down into like the 188s. What was this low? 187.34. Yeah, we basically got back to where we were supposed to. And remember, we trade over the 20 MA and back below it, it becomes a short. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these stocks rallied to their resistance and just doing what they're supposed to be doing, pulling back. BABA getting a bit of a pullback too. This rallied. I was sort of thinking we might, if we had some better trade deal news, get up higher. We still may. The 100 MA is sort of key here, shorter term, it looks to me. So that could be some support. 106s to 108s had been prior resistance. That may now be some support we'll have to see in the after hours. Actually, we'll have to see in the RTH session. Now, the Netflix. A few things that are bugging me about Netflix. One is that it rallied into numbers, and it got very close to our 999 upside target. The other piece of bad news is there's a potential double tap head and shoulders and a potential now failed breakout. Anything back below the 50 MA could actually be a short, so keep an eye on this 960.65. We're very close to that in the after hours. I've also not loved all of the TV traders loving the stock with the earnings coming up. I would have liked this lower into numbers, not higher. Now, that being said, yeah, Netflix is generally bullish. I just don't love the setup here. I would like it lower. If it's lower into the number, then I do think there's bounce potential. But if it's strong, that gets me a little concerned. Tesla. A little weak. It just, to me, looks like it's in a big chop zone here with the anchor VWAP area 209 to, what is this, 214s as support, and then the 200 MA is resistance up here close to 290s, and I think it's just going to chop around in there until they report, and then we'll see. Meta. Now, no love lost on Zuckerberg, although he's now like trying to be all pals with the president, but I think he's going to have some problems. I think they're going to try to break up Meta and, Instagram. I don't know if that's going to fly or not. I mean, the deal was approved, so now it's not being approved. And I mean, everyone knows that TikTok is their big competition against Instagram, so it's not like they have a monopoly, really. I mean, to some degree, but, not fully. I've told you before, a little cautious on this, given, that type of news. And this may also see a little bit of seize up with, it's basically advertising. And I also warned you this year, I was iffy on this because it's not an election year. Last year was, and the comps are going to be tough. They do have the currency going in their favor, but also 20 MA resistance and 200 MA resistance. So if this, I'll tell you what, if this is low enough into numbers, that could interest me, but it's maybe got a little bit more to go. I would feel comfortable maybe 453s. I don't know if we're going to get that low, but that would do it for me if we got down there for numbers. The googliness. I think they had a downgrade. This to me, basically also a 20 MA trend failure. It's got to hold the 10 MA here at 152.89. If not, we could come back and retest into lows. But I do think that this may pop on numbers because just everyone seems to hate Google lately, right? So historically, I don't really know. We'll have to do some research ahead of the numbers, what the quarter looks like. Remember, the trade I love to do is the Meta Google trade. They usually go the same way on the first to reports numbers and then the opposite on the other one. And I think that could be in play this time around. So keep that on your radar. Amazon, also, they got downgraded the other day. Bulls there need to clear the 20 MA. So until it clears 189.18, it's just a conversation. The old high was 188.65. That lines up very well. I do like this into Prime Day in July, usually mid-July, so mid to late July. So that's something to consider. They have been doing a lot of sales lately, so it wouldn't surprise me to see them have decent numbers. The Walmart, wow, pretty big rally. Got the 61.8, but now pulling back. I think the 20 MA could be an interesting buy the dip, right or right out at 87.53. Maybe opportunity to sell some OTM footage. Let's end on Microsoft. I warned about this. I told you I thought we'd see a check back to the breakdown, and we did, and now we're back below it. Careful. It's got to be over 385.58, and I'd even say the 50 MA at this point at 392.54. Anything below there to me is a lot of chop. Their earnings are coming up, so kind of important. This to me looks like a very large, complex top. I don't know that we're going to get down to the channel low and anchor VWAP, but I'll tell you, the pattern here looks pretty crappy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It could be negated. Earnings could do it if we got back up over and stayed up over, let's say, 400. then I'd reevaluate. But until that happens, still iffy. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you for the weekend video, late night Friday, early morning Saturday. Be sure to like and retweet my post with this video. It helps me a lot with the Twitter algo, which seems to be hater, or X algo. It seems to be haters lately. Cheers.